Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Wangen, the co-founder and medical director of the IBS Treatment Center, and I'm here today to talk to you about anemia and how anemia causes fatigue. First off, what is anemia? Anemia is really a fancy word that means you either don't have enough red blood cells or your red blood cells aren't being formed properly. That, of course, is important because your red blood cells carry oxygen to every single cell in your body. And of course, if you don't get enough oxygen, then you're going to experience fatigue. There are lots of different kinds of anemia, but there are really three major kinds that you might be likely to experience. These are iron deficiency anemia, vitamin B12 deficiency anemia, and folic acid deficiency anemia. How can you tell if you have one of these types of anemia? There's a very simple test called the CBC, which stands for complete blood count. A CBC will tell you if you have enough red blood cells and whether or not those red blood cells are being formed properly. It's a very simple test. In fact, might be the most common test in the medical system, and any doctor can run it, and they often do run it. You can also directly measure your iron and your vitamin B12 and your folic acid through separate tests. But the main thing is to make sure that when you go to the doctor for fatigue, that you do get at least a complete blood count run. All too often people go in and it's not run at all. The second most important thing is when it is run, make sure that you get a copy of the results. I can't tell you how many times I've seen patients who've had a complete blood count run and they weren't told the results of the test even when they were anemic. I've had numerous patients bring the results into my office, show them to me, and I say, oh look, did they show you that you're anemic? And they said, no, nobody told me. So of course it wasn't treated, and usually it's relatively simple to treat. So make sure you get a copy, you look at the results, and you want your numbers to generally be in the middle of the normal range. If they're near the edges of the normal range, then you're essentially borderline anemic, which is still a type of anemia that can cause fatigue, and you can still treat that and improve those numbers. Another test that you want to run is called ferritin. Ferritin is actually a much better test than iron for telling you whether or not your iron storage levels are adequate. So let's say, for example, that you often go in and out of anemia and have trouble keeping yourself from being anemic. Ferritin tells you whether or not your iron storage levels are adequate and if you need to continue to treat with iron so that you can get further into the normal range. The normal range goes anywhere from 18 to 200 depending on the lab, and if you're anywhere below 50, you're still less than ideal, and if you're below 30, you're definitely deficient. So you can tell that even if you're at 18, you're not in a very good spot with your iron storage levels. So now you're an expert on the basic kinds of anemia and how to get tested. If you'd like to learn about how to treat anemia and how to improve your digestion to improve the absorption of your nutrients that treat anemia, tune into my other videos on those topics. Thank you for listening today.